Pacers lose in Houston. They play right into the Rockets' hands, especially in the second half, and we'll talk about that. But man, oh man, do we have to have a conversation about Tyrese Haliburton on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Thursday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, so much to discuss. Pacers Rockets has been over for a couple hours now. The Pacers lost by 17. Everything I talked about yesterday on the pregame preview of how the Pacers shouldn't play to win, they played all those things. They had too many turnovers. They had lots of possession issues. We'll get to all that. It cost them a game that they were in for a while, and Siakam was great. And Quentin Jackson, my God, was awesome. I feel terrible that this isn't a Quentin Jackson podcast because he earned it. He was awesome. Good bench play. Moses Brown debuted and played like some real minutes. Instead, this whole first segment will not be about the game at all. It kind of will be. Because we have to talk about Tyrese Haliburton. We just have to. And some of it's because I'm holding myself accountable, and some of it's because he's not playing well at all, and I want to get to the bottom of it. Or I want to try to submit to you my thinking on a lot of this. Tyrese Haliburton's night against the Rockets was not very good. Again. In fact, that's putting it lightly. A lot of you just rolled your eyes. Tyrese Haliburton finishes the game 1 for 7. He missed both of his 2-point shots, 8 assists, 4 points, 2 turnovers, minus 28. I mean, there's nothing to say. That's horrible. You cannot play like that and expect to win. And this game had all the blueprints of a game the Pacers do win if he is good. Siakam was great. They had another starter play very well in Quentin Jackson. Other guys chipped in enough in the starting five. Turner's defense was awesome. And the bench was really good. TJ McConnell was great. Furphy, Freeman, Brown were hitting shots. Like, they got enough from the second unit. That is a recipe for last year's Pacers team to win. And this year's team lost by 13. And was down by much more than that at times in the game. So what's going on here? So let me start with this. I said early in the season, small sample size. I've seen Haliburton go through slumps before. Let's get till 15 to 20 games in. If it's still happening, we'll really talk about it. It's 15 games. Pacers are 6-9 now. Tyrese Haliburton just had another off night. And right now, he is doing something that's never been done before in a bad way in the NBA. I wanted to use his cutoff specifically, so it's a little unfair. But still, this is reality. Right now, Tyrese Haliburton is taking 13.9 shots per game, shooting 37.5% from the field, 7.7 threes per game, 28.4% on those threes. No one has ever shot that poorly on that volume in NBA history, ever. And I even dropped down some of the cutoffs. The query is 7.5 threes per game, and 13 shots per game with a 3-point field goal percentage under 29 and a field goal percentage under 38.5. The whole list is Tyrese Haliburton this season. So that's awful. That inefficiency is terrible. Even though the assist numbers are okay, like good-ish, he's passing a lot, right? That is like so hard to overcome. This guy has the ball all the time for good reason. He earned that responsibility and has not been producing with it. And if you change the cutoff slightly, here are some of the seasons that also pop up for this query. Steph Curry, the year he played 5 games and got hurt and missed the rest of the season. Tyrese Maxey and Trey Murphy, like right now, are close to this. They've both been injured this season and played like 4 or 5 games. And Kobe's retirement year. That's it. Like, that's the list of guys at this volume and inefficiency ever. They're all like injured and barely played or were playing for nothing because they were doing a tour of the NBA. Haliburton's been that level of volume efficiency bad. The Pacers just can't have that. That he has the ball so much. And like his pedigree says, he earned that, but it's not really happening. And then the assist part of this is a thing too. I just clicked to the wrong tab. Apologies. 8.5 per game's pretty good, right? I'm not going to demean that. He's still passing a lot. Last year, 70.3 per game. This year, 75.9. That's what the Pacers want. They want to be a high-volume passing team, yet his potential assists are down. Some of that's because the guy he passes to doesn't shoot. Some of that's because his assist points created is much lower because the Pacers are shooting worse and making less threes. It's just less effective. So let's talk about lots of things here. I'm going to get into a lot of nonsense. This is going to be structured differently than other podcasts. Sorry, Locked On bosses. I just have a lot to say here. So, look, I could throw stats at you. and I can throw reasons at you, and I will. I'm going to do that. But for starters, we're all watching the games. He just looks worse. I don't have to throw numbers at you to say that he can't get by guys as much. He's not shooting the shots he would take last year in the lane confidently and making them. And he can't buy a three at all, and he can't create as much separation on them. Even though there are lots of stats that suggest that a breakout could have been coming at some point. I wrote about it, and then he had a good game against the Knicks and then has totally fallen flat since then, right? A lot of the stuff that, for me, felt good or felt like a burst could be coming is that he was still shooting very well inside of 10 feet. He was still passing, like I just described, at a high volume and setting up his teammates. The shots he was taking that were open or wide open, according to the NBA standards, was a higher percentage than last year, right? All these things to me suggest he's still trying to play the same way he does. He's taking good, smart shots, and he's making the ones in the lane. He's just got to make jumpers, and his teammates have to make jumpers. Okay, that is all good and true. I'm sorry to quote some corny billionaire, but Jeff Bezos has this quote from when he was with Amazon that was like, when the data and the anecdotes don't match, usually the anecdotes are right and the data is measuring the wrong things. And I've gotten to that kind of point here. And I'm a data guy. Like, that's hard for me to say, where it's just like, I can see it. Like, I can see that all these stats say that, like, yeah, in theory, a breakout's coming. He's just playing worse. And he can't. He was the Pacers' identity. And the rest of the team found a way to play that way, and it worked. TJ McConnell became this awesome, brilliant backup point guard that could play that style when Haliburton was out of the game. It was all great. And that is something they can get back to if Haliburton can get back to playing at the level he did even 2 years ago. But that hasn't happened. So let's talk about what I would consider the things that I've heard people yell about on the internet about this is why they think it is, or that's why, or this, or these things. And some of them I think are stupid, and some of them I think have some value. And I'll tell you which one of the 5 I think it is. The 5 things I'm going to talk about are fame, contracts, continuations of last year. This is just who he is now, and injuries. Okay. Those are the 5 things people have said routinely about Haliburton's reality right now, statistically, production-wise, all that. Okay. So fame keeps getting brought up. He's doing things, right? Netflix documentary, podcast interviews. He's just a more famous person because he was all NBA last year and got all this buzz with the All-Star break and the Olympics. Like, well earned, by the way. He's more famous because he was very good at basketball. That's how it works when you're an athlete. So first of all, personal experience, I have been around him this year. My job makes that possible. He seems like the same dude, right? His attitude is very alluring to lots of people. It's what makes him a great teammate. If fame has changed him as a player, it has not changed him as a person. I don't know how to separate that in my head, but he seems like the same guy to me. By all accounts, I can't see him practice. I've never been invited to watch him practice, and I never will be, and that's fine. By all accounts, his work ethic is the same. The stuff I can see in practice, him shooting, what he's working on, how he feels about what he's working on, seems the same, right? This is like a thing people have said, is that fame has changed players and made them like different mentally or different effectiveness. And like, that is true. That has happened to players before. I'm not like writing this off as some reality, but other players right now are like, they did Netflix documentaries last year. They do podcasts all the time, and it doesn't hurt their effectiveness, right? That's why this one kind of doesn't pass the fly test with me, even though this has happened to players before, is because lots of other players continue to get more famous and improve and don't just have sudden dip to like what is going on levels, right? So yes, I understand that this has happened in the past to people. They get more famous as an athlete and then it's distracting from actual sports. I do not think that is the case here, although I cannot just throw it to the side completely. Second thing people have said a lot, no more contract. It doesn't have the contract motivation anymore. Okay, I just think this is dumb. So I'll give you a lot of reasons why. And some of you can say, well, yeah, he was fighting for All-NBA last year. Okay, well, hang on. Let me talk about this. He signed his contract before last season. So he was going to make $220-something million, even if he didn't play a single game last year. And he still went out there and played and was at an All-NBA level and clearly an All-Star, even if you think he didn't deserve All-NBA, right? And so you could say, yeah, he fought for All-NBA to get that extra money. Yeah, okay, he fought for the extra 30-something million. Like, that's great. And he earned that too because he played very well. But like he signed the 200+ million part before that season. Okay, so that's thing one. The timing of that does not fly to me. Two, he's still playing for a contract right now. He's on the team that he finished his rookie scale deal with. He is Supermax. He can get a Supermax with the Pacers. If he makes All-NBA this year and next year, he'd be Supermax eligible the year after that. If he doesn't, he'll have to fight to make it in his 7th season. No one wants to have a 1-year window to make it or not make it, and then maybe you're not eligible, and then you have to try again. It's like, no one wants it to go that way. The Pacers don't want it to go that way. Haliburton doesn't want it to go that way. You can get it done now. Great. You're always fighting for a contract and money in the NBA. Constantly, unless you're like 35. Well, that doesn't fly the test to me either. Okay. And even if you think it's a contract thing, when he got traded to the Pacers, he was in the middle of his 2nd season. He wasn't even halfway done with his rookie scale contract. And for those 26 games in 2021-22 that he was on the Pacers, he was better than this by like kind of a lot. Like that player was a 17.5 points, 9.6 assists guy on 50, 42, 85. That guy, the Pacers would be 8-6 at least right now. And that guy was 2 years removed from rookie scale extension, or a season and a half, let's say. So, okay, yes, I also understand how contract years work in the NBA, although a lot of studies have said that's not really a thing, but whatever. Players have talked about it. I believe it's real. And you're always playing for a contract in your 20s, and especially when All-NBA can be something dangled in front of you as an even bigger escalator. Is it possible that he signed it and totally settled in? Yeah, I can write it off. Going to kind of tie it to the work ethic part with the fame thing and say, from what I know, that hasn't been the case. But I haven't been around everything. I don't know everything. What I will say is I think people are very lazy when they say that. Yes, his contract started this year. He signed it a year before that. He was playing well 2 years ago. So he's equally far removed from his rookie scale extension 2 years ago as he is from a Supermax extension right now. Doesn't really pass the smell test to me. This would be costing him money right now. The way he's playing right now would be costing him money. He would need to turn it around. Okay. The third thing people say about Tyrese Haliburton, this is a continuation of last year. Got hurt in January. Hasn't been the same since. The Pacers wish they had last year's Tyrese Haliburton post-injury right now. I don't think people remember correctly what happened last year. He came back from injury, had those 4 or 5 games where he was playing 20 minutes a game. That was kind of weird, but he was playing okay in those 20 minutes a game. In that stretch of 4 games where he played 20 or 21 minutes, he made 52.3% of his shots and 37% of his threes. From his return until the All-Star break last season, he averaged 15 and 8 on 47, 40, 78 splits. Then post All-Star break, he was not very good. He had a very good game in Detroit. And then for the next, I have to count very quickly. For the next 13 games, he was atrocious. This is what people remember. And for some reason, this is what they think his entire last 4 months of last season were. This stretch stunk, no doubt. 15.4 points, 9.5 assists, 42.3 from the field. That's higher than this year by 4%. 19.5% from 3. That is much worse than this year. That is, in theory, what people have thinking for them. And 88% from the foul line. Okay. But the assists were higher. Okay. That did happen. No doubt. And then he stopped being in a slump and people just like forgot the last 12 games of the regular season. He was 19 and 9.5 on 47, 39, 84 splits. And then the playoffs happened. He basically matched those stats. Thankfully, I went through and checked playoffs plus last couple games. So this is the last 27 games Tyrese Haliburton played last season, regular season plus playoffs. He averaged 18.7 points and 8.7 assists per game on 48% from the field and 38.2% from deep. The Pacers wish they had the continuation of last year Haliburton. That player I just described and saw play in the playoffs was good. Defenses were scared of him, and that includes those stats, some stinker games. 6 points against New York, 9 points against Milwaukee. The game he got hurt in, he played only like the first 2 quarters. He had that crappy game against OKC in the regular season, right? Like, and he still had those stats. Like, they wish they had that guy. So it's not a continuation of last year. He's been worse. That's just wrong. I don't know where that thought comes from. It's like people fell asleep on like March 20th. Like the last 2 months of last season didn't happen. That one is the one I think the least of. Although I think pretty low of the contract thought too. People say he just stinks now. This is who he is. Get that out of here. I mean, maybe. The most recent sample of 15 games are not very good. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. I just told you it's historically bad volume and efficiency combined. Come on. He was great for 3 years and then had a rookie year before that. It's been an awful 15 games. Yeah, they're more recent. They're definitely the more relevant data set to his reality. They don't erase 3 years of basketball play. But something has to be happening, right? That leads to injury. This one is the stuff we can see. The pad around his back. The pad he's sitting on the bench. The lack of ability to create as much separation as last year. The lack of side-to-side mobility that we saw at times last year. He denied a back injury after it was reported when I asked him straight up. He was hurt in the Olympics. We learned about this. It's been confirmed by Carlisle on the radio. We don't know specifics of this leg injury. It's been dodged every time it's been asked. Okay? This is what I believe after you go through all that. I think that it's an injury thing. And I think that he got hurt in the Olympics and it hurt his preseason rhythm and prep in some way. And now during the season, he is dealing with something. And that is why he is playing poorly. He cannot reach level. Now, he has never been on an injury report. He has denied any injury. We have to take that for what it is, right? And because of that, it's fair to say he needs to play better if he's healthy and playing. If he is hurt, I think it needs to be said because that would explain this. That is to me, that is by far the most logical explanation of anything because we have seen star players get hurt and be worse. I saw it with Victor Oladipo here and Paul George although it was only 6 games, right? We've seen that. Everyone has. The other stuff has happened very infrequently to certain players. And some of the stuff people are saying is just wrong and stupid. So that is Tyrese Haliburton's reality right now. That's what I think of it. And the going forward part of this, he just has to be better. I get the thought of the Pacers tweaking their style or lineups, and I might get into that next week if I have more time to do so, to figure stuff out. They're just so hurt that they're limited on their number of options. Siakam's been great. Mathurin's been great this year. They deserve a ton of credit for that. Haliburton just has to be better. They win games when he plays well. We've seen it this year. He's hit clutch shots all the time this year. He was great in Dallas. He was great against the Knicks. He was great against the Celtics. Like, those games happen. Those are the reasons that people want to look for reasons why they're not happening all the time. So it sounds stupid to say. He just, whatever is causing it, he just has to play better, or it needs to be more obvious what actually is causing this. Because he went from like top 15 player clearly, like everyone thought so in the league, covering the league, whatever, to like, what this guy kind of stinks right now. He's so ineffective on offense. And Tyrese Haliburton rant. He did not play well in this game. That was a big factor in their loss. Much more to discuss from Pacers Rockets 18 minutes into this podcast episode. Pacers lost by 17. They played right into the Houston Rockets' hands. We're going to talk about it in just a second. Before we talk Pacers Rockets, got to tell you guys about the great people over at Game Time. Their new feature, Game Time Picks, makes it easier to get tickets to see your favorite teams play live. Even easier, Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets on the Game Time app. But wait, if you do want to do that and you're trying to get tickets to music, theater, comedy, sports, whatever you're going to, your Game Time is the way to go. They have so many great features that make it the best way to get tickets to whatever events you're going to, like their seat view feature, their super deals, their curated deals with your little toggles and whatever. You can turn on and off all-in pricing so you're not surprised by any hidden fees at the end. They have their lowest price guarantee. It's all perfect. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Sorry, we're so far in after a long I have lots to say about Tyrese Haliburton segment. Make Locked On Rockets your second listen. Jackson Gatlin will be talking about a very fun team that I tried to tell you yesterday is pretty dang good. Top 5 in net rating entering that game. I thought they'd be good this season, but not nearly that good. They look great. Rockets look great. Credit to what they're doing over there. If you listened to the entire episode yesterday, you heard me say, here's how the Rockets are winning this year. They're not particularly efficient on a per-shot basis. Their defense is pretty good, but not exceptional. But they dominate the possession battle. They're going to get you in transition. They're going to steal the ball a bunch. They're going to dominate the offensive glass, and they're going to win that way. Well, boy, oh boy, is that how they beat the Pacers. The Pacers shot 53% in this game. That's really good. They were awesome on twos. They were 5 for 22 on threes. That stinks. They were 39 for 61 on twos. That's exceptional, right? They have had lots of games they've lost this year. They haven't been making twos. They made 64% of them in this game. And they lost by a lot. They were down as much as 26, 24. I can't remember what it got to in the second half. 24 was the biggest lead for the Houston Rockets in this game. And it was all the possession battle. 23 turnovers for the Indiana Pacers against the Houston Rockets. The Rockets had 13. That's 10 extra possessions for Houston. But wait, 13 offensive rebounds for the Rockets. 4 for Şengün, 3 for Jock Landale, 2 for Tyrese, and 2 for Jabari Smith. The Pacers had 3 as a team. Alperen Şengün had more than the Pacers as a team. So that is too many extra possessions. The Rockets had more free throw attempts on top of what I'm about to say. So not only did they take 8 more free throws, they took 19 more shot attempts from the field. So the Pacers shot 7% better on shots in this game and got blown out. Now, that wasn't everything, but that was so much of this game. This is what the Rockets want. They want extra chances. They want to maximize their margin for error and efficiency on both ends, and they did it. They took care of the ball better than the Pacers. They didn't let the Pacers get offensive rebounds. They crashed like crazy. They forced steals. Bada bing, bada boom. They win. Their margin for error is huge. They could play anybody and got it done. Pacers played right into it. Turnovers to me were Sans Haliburton. Push him to the side. We already talked about that. Turnovers were killer. And it wasn't even Haliburton with the turnovers, even though he had the ball quite a bit. 4 for Mathurin, 3 for Siakam, who was awesome, 4 for Myles Turner, 4 for Jarris Walker, who's now on like a 3 or 4 game stretch of like lazy, weird passes. And it's been a trend. And I bring it up again because for those who've been listening all summer, when Caitlin Cooper and I did our player reviews and we talked about Jarris Walker, my clips for him in our segment of his season review were lazy transition passes where he would like make the read and just kind of like toss it away. Weird. It was weird. It's so strange the way that this passing kind of floats through him. He was questionable with an illness. I'm willing to admit that he might have been sick for this game because he missed every shot he took and had more turnovers than assists, and it was 4-0. He had an inverse ratio there. Turnovers killed the Pacers in this game. 22 three-pointers attempted. I'm pretty sure they made more than that in the game last year. That's unacceptable. They've got to get threes up. Credit to the Rockets there. Now, to the Pacers' credit, they were scoring so at the rim. It's not like they're going to be like, we need to stop doing this and take more threes. Their offense was efficient enough, but like seeing 5 for 22 from the three-point line just looks so jarring. 1 for 5 for Haliburton, 0 for 4 for Toppin, 0 for 4 for Walker. That right there is 1 for 13 from 3, right? It just, a lot of stuff looked yucky in this game. They got great play from a couple guys throughout the night, but so many things that they needed to be their thing tonight to win. Good guard play. Mathurin 3 for 8 with 8 points. No free throw attempts for Ben Mathurin. A game that both teams hated the officiating in. And of course, we just did the Haliburton part, right? That they needed to be better. They combined for 12 points on 15 shots. That wasn't good enough. The ball control was not good enough. The defense was good on first shots, but not good in totality, right? The injuries are bad for the Pacers. Don't get me wrong, but they have the talent to be winning these. They have their 3 best players from last year available. They have the talent to win games like this, and they were winning in the second quarter of this game. And there was a moment where I thought they were about to go on a nice little run. They cut it from 6 to taking the lead and had some juice going, and were getting to the rim whenever they wanted. That kind of continued all night. They just couldn't close quarters well, and the Rockets just rode every amount of momentum to play their way. They didn't get enough good stuff from anybody. Played right into Houston's identity to fall to 6-9. They really need this Bucks game. We'll talk about the Bucks tomorrow. I'll spoil that now. It's going to be a crossover with the Locked On Bucks people. Probably the last individual team crossover this year, because that'd be every opponent from last year's playoffs plus that Heat little mini series. But I'm excited for that. They need that game. The Bucks are also 6-9. They're playing better. That's a team the Pacers handled last year. Could be a measuring stick. Can they get to the level they were at last year? A team that identity-wise they just smoked. Like they had no trouble with Milwaukee. It's not going to be easy. They keep playing another team's identity. They can't find enough stuff going their way. They can't get their star guard playing well. Siakam was awesome. We're going to talk about that in a second. Quentin Jackson, hello, sir. Bravo. I feel bad that this happened in a loss for him. He would have been the lead. He would have been in the if I could have got a photo of him, he would have been on the promo graphic. And I feel bad. He was excellent. But it didn't matter because the Pacers played right into the Rockets' hands. That's that team's. And to be clear, if it was just as easy as snapping your fingers and not turning it over against the Rockets, everybody would do it, right? Like it's not. I'm not saying it was easy or like that they should be embarrassed that this is how they lost. But the game sometimes is dictated by which team's identity wins out or dominates or is set. And the Rockets totally got that. They got this game to be played the way they want, and they won. Let's talk about some good stuff. I will get Quentin Jackson in here. He deserves it. Siakam was excellent for a half. So much more to get to here on Locked On Pacers. Before we close out with, yes, some good stuff from this Houston game, we've got to talk about Chime. We've all had a point where we realized it was time to make serious money moves right out of college, right before big life moves. You want to buy something huge? Well, take control of your finances by using Chime checking account with features like no maintenance fees, fee overdraft up to $200, or getting paid 2 days early with direct deposit. You can learn more at chime.com/LockedOnNBA. Join millions of Chime members who are working on financial progress. Chime helps you make progress with fee-free overdrafts up to $200. Your next deposit is applied to your balance. Get spotted on debit card purchases and cash withdrawals. No monthly fees or maintenance fees. Over 50,000 fee-free ATMs. Eligible members get complimentary boost to temporarily increase your friend's spot me limit. All sorts of other great features. Direct deposit into your Chime account. You can get an activated debit card, and Chime will spot you up to $200 when you exceed your balance. Your next direct deposit is applied to your negative balances. It is a fantastic way to get a jump start on your finances. So go check them out today and make all of your fall finances a little greener by working towards your financial goals with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That's chime.com/NBA. Feels like progress. And we're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Did I say Locked On Rockets? Jackson Gatlin will crush it over there. If I did, Locked On Bucks because the Pacers play them next, or Locked On NBA to hear about the crumbling 76ers and many other fun or not so fun NBA storylines. Okay, good stuff did happen. Siakam in the first half was just sensational. I believe he only took 2 shots the second half of this game, which is not very good. But at halftime, Siakam was 7 for 12 with 19 and 4. And the Rockets had no answers for him. He could get to the foul, and he's just making some insane jumpers. He finished 8 for 14, so he went 1 for 2 in the second half. He had a jumper. The one I knew he was on, Dylan Brooks was just all up in his grill. Siakam didn't even do a move to create space. He just kind of dribbled a couple times backwards, turned around from 20 feet. Perfect contest from Dylan Brooks. Little flick of the wrist from Siakam. Buried it. Perfect swish. I was like, oh, he's got it. Credit to the Rockets for weathering that storm because in the second half, they defended him better, and the Pacers just look away from it. It's so bizarre how many games it feels like the Pacers just can't get him the rock when he's cooking at times. I don't know if it's a coaching thing. I don't know if it's an adjustment thing that tries to make the guards get going because there is effect to that. And Ben Mathurin started the third quarter really well. He had 2 threes that got the game to 3, and that stretch, that was 6 of his 8 points for the night. Right. But if the game had shifted at that point towards better guard play, that would have been good for the Pacers, but they just never got back to Siakam, which was disappointing given how good his second quarter was. He changed the game. He gave the Pacers hope in this one. He was exceptional once again. I mean, you guys know how high I've been on Siakam season. That continued once again. And yet he was outdone in the scoring department by Mr. Quentin Jackson. Quentin Jackson starting for the Pacers. I wonder what the true reason is. The Rockets do start 2 guards, but only 2. The Pacers really started 3 if you count Mathurin. If you made me guess, this was because Jarris Walker had this illness and he was questionable to play. My guess would be that at shoot-around, they weren't sure if Jarris was going to play, so they went through shoot-around with Quentin Jackson as a starter and just started him. It worked. It looked great. He was their best guard in the game, maybe. 24 points on 10 for 12. He was making crafty acrobatic shots at the basket. He had a 3. He could drive by guys. 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Only 1 turnover. He's got some defensive work to do, certainly. But if you go 10 for 12, you certainly outperform your defensive miscues. Great game from Quentin Jackson. That dude is so fast. He's just so hard to stay in front of for anybody. He's just got so much wiggle and side to side ability right now and looks totally like he belongs. And he fights on D. And I thought it was very telling. The Rockets were I was not at this game, obviously, but the Rockets were kind enough to send us quotes after the game. And Quentin Jackson did his post-game interview. He was asked about starting his first game ever in the NBA and then scoring a career high 24 points. Here's what Quentin Jackson said. He said, quote, "It feels good, obviously, from an individual standpoint, but I think for me, I'm more of a about the team type of person. So the way that we went out there and played today and the way that we lost, I think we need to take a couple more steps in the right direction as a team. So like I say, individually, of course, I'm proud of myself, but I think we still got work to do." That is the attitude the Pacers need to take on as a team. Great performance from Quentin Jackson and nailing the mentality post-game. I don't know that he'll start again if they get Shepherd back or Walker not sick for their next game, although Jarris has struggled. I still think his size and trying to build in him as a skilled size player is important, but Quentin Jackson certainly fighting for minutes. He was very good. Very good in this game, a career game. People questioned me when I said he was awesome with the Mad Ants, keep an eye on him in Summer League. He had one bad game, and everybody said, oh, he stinks. Right, wrote him off. You all see now. You all see the vision. Good for Quentin Jackson. Awesome performance. Like the game every guy on a two-way dreams of, right? Put yourself on the map. Prove that you belong. TJ McConnell was quite good. 17 points on 12 shots for him. He had 4 assists and only 1 turnover as well. 2 steals. Another game that makes me wonder if he could have played like this in Orlando, Pacers would have won that game easily. They needed anybody off that bench to be good that night. But TJ McConnell was quite good. I honestly wondered if they would rely on him a little more, but I don't know if a McConnell-Jackson backcourt would really click. Top and Walker, we saw it today, something I've been talking about quite a bit as a front court combo. Didn't really work that well, just something noteworthy from this game as I'm running through bench guys. Johnny Furphy, 21 minutes for Furphy, and they won those minutes by 8, 2 for 3 from the field. Looks more and more like he belongs every game after some not so great finishing in his first couple performances. James Johnson played point guard for the last 4.5 minutes of this game. Enrique Freeman made all 3 of his shots in 13.5 minutes, and they won those minutes by 4. Like the deep bench guys, sort of in the competitive portion of the game, I would say it was mostly decided, but did pretty good stuff. Furby was certainly in the rotation. And Moses Brown, who was in the rotation for 0.6 seconds. No, it's not an error. He played for the final 0.6 seconds of the first quarter for rebounding purposes. So he did play rotation minutes technically. In theory, he played 6.5 minutes in his Pacers debut. It was all garbage time. So the Pacers, even in their current reality, went with Obi Toppin as the backup 5. The Rockets backup 5. I'm going to keep tracking this. And to be clear, it's Moses Brown's first day with the team. He's learning teammates and new plays. Like, I don't think they would have relied on him anyway, but I will be tracking these centers and who the Pacers lean on. They went Obi at the backup 5 today. Moses Brown, though, 3 for 4, sprinkled in some hook shots, got 4 rebounds in 6.5 minutes, and his teammates certainly took away some, making that number higher. So the blueprint's there, right? He did the stuff that, in theory, if he's going to play and produce for the Pacers, he will do. He's clearly very tall. That is the thing they need him to do, is be tall. And when the ball hits the rim and doesn't go in, they need him to grab it and not someone on the other team. He did that in this game. So I have nothing real to say about him. He hit some shots around the basket, as he should. And if he keeps shooting 3 for 4 and getting a rebound every, I can't do math, 90 seconds or so, he'll play. He will play for the Pacers at some point. So that is it for this one. Quentin Jackson, congratulations on a wonderful game and maybe a career-changing moment. He was very good. Pascal Siakam was very good. The Pacers were not, as a team, 6-9 against the 6-9 Bucks coming NBA Cup against the Bucks on Friday. It's like last year all over again, except both teams are not nearly as good. I'll be there in Milwaukee, weather and life event permitting. Very crazy week for me, so sorry for getting these out so late. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode and learned something from my Tyrese Haliburton segment. If you have questions about it or think I said something stupid, because I often do, I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky at Tony R. East. This podcast is on Twitter at Locked On Pacers. You can see topics there and in our newsletter, free every day in your mailbox. You'll get a newsletter with written content from me about what's in the episode and some general thoughts, and the last couple episodes and national NBA writing. It's very good. And again, free. So check that out. Thank y'all for listening. Be back tomorrow talking some Bucks Pacers. Can't wait. Till then, everybody. See you soon.